Everything is connected, a constant becoming. That constitutes the world, the universe.
Always remember that we are neither perfect nor infallible.
I'm here because I came to visit a friend, and we visited another dear friend called Gaspare de Lama, who lives by the lake near Lecco. The main topic of my life by now is that of having interaction, contacts, and suggestions with our space brothers, our cosmic and galactic brothers who live in other frequencies, other dimensions, who have constantly interacted with humanity since the beginning of time. My life has always been somewhat based on their research, their help, their often invisible presence, but I knew they were there.
I'm a painter, but I've also been a professional musician. I played for the various orchestras of the Milanese record companies. So, I played with all the singers of the time. And I've done so many other fun jobs too. I was the director of 2 important galleries in Milan. Art galleries. Yes, art galleries. I also worked as a joke writer for humorous magazines, cartoons and drawings. I did everything that pleased me, that amused me. When I got bored, I just left. I've had a very pleasant life. I had fantastic parents. I was born in Milan and came here to Mandello in 1971. I left Milan, so I also quit my job, and by chance, they offered me something I did quite well: playing tennis. They offered me a job as a tennis coach at the sports center in Mandello, and I said, let's try this too.
I'm the daughter of a musician, a conductor. He went to San Remo, he brought his music, he was a composer.
The artistic director of Durium, a Milanese record company.
Well, as a child I wanted to be a ballerina because I was passionate about dancing, but with the war and everything I couldn't study, and so I dedicated myself to painting, but I also liked singing. Then I began painting at 16, on my own. I was self-taught.
We met in an art gallery.
We met at this art gallery where he was the director. And afterward,
I realized she was a woman and I asked her to marry me. We got married and had a son.
I can tell you a little about my life. I was born in a somewhat particular way. I remember that I came from a point, and from some points of the cosmos from where I saw the Earth. I wanted to return. I said, I'll stop here. I'm not leaving the solar system. I want to go back to Earth. I did this over time. I couldn't do it immediately at my will. I had to stop and I said, no, I'm not leaving here. I have to go down to Earth. I have to return. I remember I waited a while, and in that cobalt sky you could see planet Earth as it is in the atlases, with its white clouds, the seas, the continents. A being approached me and said, but you know it's not easy? I said, I know, but I'm going down. So it said, okay, there's a chance, and indicated a point. There's a possibility that you can go down there, but you will take what comes. And I said, I'll take what comes, leave it to me. Unfortunately, I had some difficult years in my childhood. When you reincarnate and have memories of elsewhere, it's very difficult to assimilate them into your behavior with the people who are close to you. Because I would ask my first kindergarten friends, where are you from? Which planet did you come from? They looked at me, got scared and avoided me, and I started saying, oh God, they're not like me, they don't remember. And I was no longer able to do what I felt was my being, moving objects with my hands. When I was in bed and I wanted something, I did this, nothing happened, and I started crying. I said, I've lost all that I am. When I had to go to my first day of school, I said, okay, I'm going to school, but I don't need it, I don't need to learn. And they took my notebook and said, write the letter A, and I thought, no, this isn't possible. I didn't belong here and began to feel really bad. I didn't play with other kids or toys. I said, I don't need this stuff. My mother was a very evolved person. She always spoke to me about brothers she didn't understand. She took me to a psychoanalyst. The doctor took off her white coat before letting me in. I looked at her and said, I understand, but I don't have mental problems. I'm not a child, full stop. But it's not easy for an adult to understand this. However, in the end, after so much suffering, I normalized. I went to school, did my duties, but I didn't have contact with my heart. I felt very sad and got sick, a mysterious blood disease. We didn't know what it was, but I knew it was inner suffering. And I was about to die, until, when I was just at the end of my life, a schoolmate came to see me, because my desk was empty and they said, you won't see Luca anymore, he might be dying. So he came to see me and gave me back my life. He rang and came in. He saw me and said, what are you doing? Come on, come with me. And after 6 months I recovered. After that I re-entered normal life. I studied medicine because I really had the talent to be available to the brothers. We are all brothers and medicine is one of the means by which you can manifest this. I didn't find what I was looking for. There was little love. I saw people being treated with detachment. I stopped studying medicine when I was almost a doctor. My father got very angry and said, you're making a mistake. I said, Dad, I have to. He said, all right then, if you quit, it's up to you. It's up to you and we'll see how you do. So I started out as a hippie and went around a bit, doing odd jobs. I took a plane and went to South America, Central America, and there, finally in the freedom of conscience to be myself, I saw the pyramids of Guatemala. I toured Guatemala by bus, all of Mexico, and I found what I knew, that our space brothers left traces in antiquity. They drew things, symbols, because humanity is connected to them through a discourse of brotherhood and evolution. They give inputs that we humans have to process in order to follow a path of discernment. I returned to Italy because those times were very dangerous. In Guatemala I suffered assaults with pistols, so I went home and stopped traveling for a while. I haven't said that I've always been passionate about parapsychology. I had joined many circles, so I've always looked for a connection with other worlds, with what is connected to us. So I wait and wait, because nothing is separate. I'm at home in Italy, but even there, hear a voice that wakes me up from sleep. There was no connection with divinity, you have to leave or with the inner consciousness that all of us have. I said, all right, oh my gosh, what should I do? After a few days, I met a lady who was going to India, a country I knew I would have gone to because I'd read many books on Indian history. She said, I'm going back to the famous Maestro Sai Baba, much talked about, but also well-liked, who cured my brother of a tumor, without my brother having to go to India. I went to India, she told me. I prayed and he said, okay, I'll take care of your brother. Don't worry, just tell the surgeons not to touch him. Do me this favor. She came home and begged her brother, who said, okay, let's do it. He returned from a visit to Geneva where the surgeons looked and said, there are no tumors. What do you see in Italy? At that point, she said, ah, wonderful, and she became a devoted follower of the maestro. I went with her. Finally, upon arriving in India, I found an entirely different psychological and cultural environment that suited me. I stayed with him for a month. I started reading Indian teachings which help you understand who you are. They talk about cosmology, the cosmos, about gods who came in spaceships, about what you came to do in this life, the experience that life is, an experience of conscience, many things that are now within everyone's reach. I stayed there and also began to travel around India. One day, beneath a sacred mountain named Aranakula, the renowned Indian master Ramana Maharshi stated, whoever pauses at this highly charged juncture, the divine, God, will mend your karma along with all your disharmonious experiences using your divine essence. Thus, your suffering, stay in Aranakula for a few days, and you will witness a transformation. For the divinity, the guides, the brethren, they will reach out to you. Even on a psychical plane. A French lady I didn't know was doing Qigong. She looked at me and said in French, have you ever had your lives read to you? I said, I don't even know where. She hands me a note and leaves. It was the address of a great Indian seer, a Shastri, who had in his house, let's say, a shelf full of Sanskrit panels made of bamboo, where the history of the planet was written by one of his ancient Brahmins, an ancestor of 800 years ago, a Sri Shuka Nadi interpreter. You need to make an appointment, and mine was after a month. I went there and gave him my details. He went to the database, I gave him my codes. There he took some panels, came back and said, "Good, you are here," and I nodded. He spoke indecipherable English, so I struggled to understand. He said, "Well, at the age of 27, you stopped studying medicine and started traveling. Shall I continue?" And I said, "Continue." I said, "Bingo, this is perfect." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you about those lives where you've done things related to your life now. I'll tell you what family you're in, the relationship you have with your parents. Now let's talk about your evolution. You came back to India because you, like all human beings, lived all over the world in your previous lives. You came back here to finish your karma because you'd studied these Indian teachings. So you're here, Sai Baba has called you back, and now you have to do what you need to do in this life, talk about the trips you will take, and use the energy of your hands." I said, "Me?" And he said, "Yes, don't ask questions, boy, write down what I tell you and remember." I write everything down, and at the end he says very precise things to me. Then he says, "If you behave correctly, follow the Dharma, that is, correctness, this is probably your last life, and with this physical body you will be able to live on another planet." I said, "What?" And he said, "What's strange about that?" I said, "Well, if you say so, if I go to Italy and say that I can live on another planet with this body, they'll put me in an asylum." He said, "No problem." I said, "Okay, bye." He said, "I've said everything, you can leave, goodbye." I leave and say, "How wonderful, finally a contact with the cosmos. You see India and the cows eating garbage, the chaos, the noise, then you have contact with the cosmos and see that everything's connected, and a constant becoming, which is the world, which is the universe." So this thing really fortified me. I stayed in India for years and learned many things there.
My first experience was with a certain George Roux. He was a Frenchman, who was the postmaster of Montfavet. He had a beautiful villa, he was married.
With children.
Who said he wasn't Jesus Christ, but the Logos, the incarnate verb to express things. He had taught, not just the two of us but all the disciples he had, how to lay our hands to heal. We also had that experience.
It lasted 3 years.
Yes.
But that too was exciting, interesting.
Interesting, then nice to be able to heal people.
With the laying of hands.
With the laying of hands. There were about 30 of us in Milan. We had an office in the center. There were also some journalists. We got into the newspaper. Lots of people came.
It was clearly destiny we went there.
It was destiny. And then there was friendship after this experience. After friendship, Osho.
With friendship, we were also passionate about UFOs, both of us, yes, because I was 16 when the Corriere della Sera said on the whole front page in huge letters, "The Martians have landed." I said, "Oh God, what's going on?" But I didn't find around me, I don't know, friends who had this enthusiasm that I had felt. Nothing. It was never talked about again, and the papers never talked about it again. There was silence.
Yes, total silence.
And after I met him, we both opened up to each other about this passion. We continued to follow this passion. We tried to find books that talked about this phenomenon.
There weren't any at the time.
But there was Bruno Gabatti, who was a journalist.
Very popular, he had his own slot on television.
And he wrote in a weekly magazine.
For various newspapers.
He wrote about UFOs. When we realized this, we started buying this magazine, and once, there was this article. He was good at writing. There was a photograph.
3 photographs.
3 photographs of UFOs on the Pescara coast.
In broad daylight.
When Gaspare saw them, he said these were real, that they were.
Yes, as a painter I looked at them, they were in broad daylight. The light from these objects was reflected on the clouds, on the beaches, very low. You could also see the beach, illuminated by the sun. As a painter I said, yes, it could be anything. but it seems to me a real photograph, a beautiful one.
It wasn't fake.
Yes, then, let's say I'm not normally somebody who writes, but at the time I felt like writing. I didn't know where this Bruno Gabaudy lived. I wrote a very short letter to the editorial staff of the newspaper. The gist was this, that I had read the interesting article. Congratulations on the luck of having been able to photograph them. I just said, I hope these beings are here to help us, not just to observe us. We knew nothing about them. I sent it to the editorial office. I didn't know where he lived. Time for it to arrive. 2 days later, I received a telephone call. It was Gabaudy. He said to me, I received your letter and would like to meet you. I had put my address on the envelope and he found my number in the Milan phone directory. And he said, I live in Asti, in Piedmont. I'll be here for work for 3 or 4 days. We can meet if you have a free evening. To which I said, I'm free tonight. Then he came over and we met. What he shared was undeniably captivating. However, he provided only a limited glimpse into the friendship group, of which he was undoubtedly a member. He left much unspoken, withholding substantial details from us. He talked about flying saucers in general. The word UFO had not yet been coined. My mother was there too. We spent a very fun evening. I learned this later, that is, from the bases, with an unimaginable technology, the bases that ranged from Ascoli Piceno, almost up to Rimini, at a depth of about 40 kilometers below the surface. These superior friends of ours. They listened to us. They had a technology to hear us. Not only that, they could verify our emotions and everything, even our unconscious. He came 2 or 3 times. I am talking about what I know. According to what they said. The 3rd time they gave him the order to tell us everything. He asked about it.
If we wanted to join the group.
If we wanted to join the group. I felt it was right. When he introduced me to, let's say, the head of the group with whom it all began. Bruno Samiciccia, I said, now yes, I'm sure. Then Samiciccia told me the day we met, by a portable radio, because you can't be made telepathic for reasons that are pointless to explain. Instead, with a radio, they'll talk to you and you'll know those things that we know through telepathy. I bought the radio and the day after I took it there, a flame came out of it, for show, because their technology doesn't cause flames. But it was just to have fun, to make me understand something had happened. Bruno instructed me to grasp it, so I lifted it up. With a click, it spontaneously powered on, and then Sigurd communicated with me, one among them. He greeted me warmly, and his initial words remain etched in my memory, hello Gaspare. They consistently addressed me by that name, though the reason eludes me. Hello Gaspare, he said, always bear in mind that we are neither flawless nor immune to error. Then Bruno told me, change the frequency. I played short, medium, long waves and he spoke the same. From that moment I said, now I'm really sure I'm in contact with them. After a few days, there was a meeting with one of their flying saucers, which passed over my head at 120 meters. It had a diameter of 22 meters, very bright. It did not reflect the light, it was perfectly outlined, silent, flying slower than at walking pace. It popped up 800 meters from me, so I saw it perfectly clearly. After seeing it, I said, "Now I'm sure I'm in contact." I thought I was always sure, and that's just how we are. Doubt always gnaws at us, but at the right moment, we can be sure. And there, it began. It was the radio and this UFO, they were the first things I witnessed, that I saw. Then we saw lots of them, many of them several times, some of them we saw only once, but they were real, and we remained in friendship for 6 years, a little more, a little less. So I've seen a lot of things, meetings with their air vehicle in broad daylight, to be able to photograph them, to film them. But nowadays a photo isn't proof, it's nothing.
Not nowadays.
I have been to a Himalayan cave where we had contact with the brothers flying over. I had apparitions of maestros there. Inside all of us is everything. You just need to extract it and block your mind. It's your worst enemy if you don't know how to use it. Those were my Indian experiences for many years. I also had visions of spaceships. Indian maestros tell you of origins from elsewhere. They talk about the gods coming with the Vimanas, contact with the devas and apparitions, so this is their story, but unfortunately we have had other mechanisms of power who manage humanity towards a level of ignorance of these things, but it is within everyone's reach now. Going back to the brothers, in India I met some friends from Buenos Aires who said, "Luca, these things in Argentina are much more accessible, come to Argentina." I have been to Buenos Aires with them, in the parks of Argentina spaceships are easily seen, he said. At this point go to Capilla del Monte, it is a small town near Cordoba, and it's 700 kilometers from Buenos Aires. I took the bus, I went to Cordoba, Capilla del Monte, which means Chapel of the Mount, which is an octagonal Templar church, now I get it, and the Italian Saint Anthony is there. With his purity and the lilies and everything makes sense, ancient Mason studies, contacts, you stop at Capilla del Monte and make your first contacts with them. I had a phone number of a friend I didn't know. I called him and he asked me where I was. I was sitting outside a bar at 2 in the afternoon. He arrived after seeing me and said, "All right, what brings you here?" and replied, "For them." That evening at 9, he came to pick me up. We went with a psychic to a place called Cuchi Corral, a high mountain peak that overlooks the plains. This spot had hosted the World Paragliding Championship. He said, "Wait and see, Luca." Asked, it was almost sunset. You see that there's no house, there's no building. That's true. At sunset it got dark. Lady Psychic raised her arms to the sky, began to speak their language called Erden and introduced me to them. After a while, lights appeared. They came out of the earth. "Here they are." I said, "Can I take pictures?" "No, they don't want it. You have to ask permission. The photo won't come out." I tried many times, but the photo didn't catch them. You stay in Capilla del Monte and you make acquaintances with people who are in contact with them. You see some of them in disguises. They have a human form. Maybe they make you understand, and then you can visit the places where they have underground bases. There are noises at night, there are lights, and there is contact with them. It's normal. In fact, a friend came to see me because I was there, at customs in Buenos Aires. They asked him, Italian, "Where are you going?" "To Capilla del Monte." "Are you going to the aliens?" "Say hello to them." Well, what can I say? This is a little part of everyone's journey. I stayed there for a long time, then I started traveling around South America. I also went to Mexico, where I had the opportunity to meet a person I still meet when he comes to Italy. We traveled with him to Mexico to someone named Galicia, a Mexican contactee, and we went to points of high frequency. They show themselves right there. There are cities where you go, you cannot fail to see them, and you always have contacts at a frequency level. Unfortunately, we are not allowed to learn about this at school, even though they teach children meditation, contacts with other dimensions, management of the mind, our character, our possibilities. We will have contacts. It is we who unfortunately exclude them.
They never wanted to admit that there are beings who come here to assist us, beings who have been present for millennia. Their arrival isn't confined to just this century. Evidence can be found in ancient chronicles as well.
Now they have intensified.
Now there are many more, but America has never wanted to say these things. They had contact with Eisenhower, it's also on the internet, they say that they can be seen. We too have seen them. There was contact between Eisenhower and them. This happened years ago, in
1951.
1951.
Sorry to interrupt you for a moment, but it is useful to know. You know who Panatti is. He is the first Italian ufologist, the one who ran the UFO magazine for years. Every year he organized a UFO Congress in San Marino, where ufologists came from all over the world to attend.
Scientists,
etc. So, in recent years in San Marino, there were Eisenhower's 2 granddaughters. Because in the Eisenhower family it leaked out. They said what their grandfather said, they can be believed, doubters can say, they do it for the money, they go around giving lectures. But Eisenhower's 2 granddaughters said something about the meetings. Pope John the 23rd, the so-called good pope, all popes should be good, no, only that one they called the good pope.
many were bad.
She's just joking. The good pope was in all the newspapers. I read about it in English newspapers. In the gardens of the Vatican, he had an encounter with one of them, who came out of a bright globe, in broad daylight. Pope John the 23rd was with his secretary Capovilla, who confirmed this. They were to one side, with the Pope on his knees, speaking with this being for the quarter of an hour. He said the good Pope was crying.
Yes, on his knees and crying.
Yes, he knelt down and he was crying. Who knows what they said?
True, not true, but there are many of these stories, so to conclude the Eisenhower story, they asked, there were 4 of them.
7 extraterrestrials, they spoke perfect English.
They asked him, can we now tell humanity that we are here, and that we are here to help? That we are here in good faith. To help you. And so Eisenhower replied.
He says it's premature.
It's premature, it's not the time yet.
And they respected him.
And they said, well, then that means we'll do our thing person to person, we'll work.
We'll continue with our system, respecting free will. We will make contact, we will create new channelers. Female channelers are being born by the thousands.
Also male ones.
Yes, more women though, because women are more receptive.
They run your life from behind the scenes, but they don't show themselves or impose anything. I personally don't have messages, I'm not a contactee, but my life has been focused on a willingness to do what seems right to me as a human brother, and they've always been close to me. I've had many apparitions. They came to my room one evening. They even did an etheric operation on my head. It seemed I had a closed channel. They did an operation on me. It was non-surgical and etheric, and they appeared. I almost got out of bed and they said, we won't do anything to you. And they didn't do anything to me, so up to now, my life has been focused on this. I also have the chance every now and then to help people with my hands. I'm quite known around my city, and people look for me, so I did what the Indian Shastri told me. I would have contacts, I would use my hands, and if I behave well in this life, maybe it's my last one. My whole life is set up like that. All of us human brothers have a mutual contact of love between populations. They ask nothing of us and help us unconditionally. Indeed, they stop here and many of them leave physical parts because the concept of death for them is very different from ours. It's like passing away, a continuous evolution, as all the ancient sacred books say. After that, if you approach history this way, you see that all mythology makes concrete sense. There were crosses between races that came from elsewhere and humans, and there were the sons of the gods, the demigods, Achilles, or even the emperors of Japan say they are crossbred with a deity. The gods also interbred with the ancient Romans. Then this died out, but at the beginning, a non-terrestrial and a terrestrial lineage had crossings or hybridizations. This is a fact, which many shrewd scientists or many secret services know about, who unfortunately prevent people from knowing these things. I'd say that now it's becoming more and more evident. The time is ripe, because if one inquires, one sees that many people who worked in the services, like wonderful Dr. Michael Wolff, who took part in meetings and managed contacts with aliens and governments. He said, "Enough, I can't keep lying," he was stopped. These were things that if one day people found out the truth about them, humanity would take a leap forward, which it is doing all the same. At this point in my life, I do some experiential travel in South America, Mexico. We accompany people, we talk about these things, I have these friendly chats, and I'm available, because you are finally certain that we are all brothers, but we are all brothers in the cosmos, which is what would finally give meaning to human life, which is what it has, and we all came here to learn something, to leave with an extra notion, because our divine part, the Atma, in Sanskrit, which is the divine part, immanent in us, is the part that keeps this whole structure alive, which is conscious, is our true essence, so we are cosmic beings, and we're not here for the atonement for sin or anything. I had other contacts in countries like Uruguay, Peru. In Uruguay there was a very beautiful one, because after these things happen, American astronauts arrive, certain American scholars or government officials arrive, who know everything. They are continuously monitoring all these events, and they come to take the evidence. In Argentina, a contactee told me that once they saw a UFO fall, they even went with a small plane, damaging it to look for the UFO. Shortly after the American soldiers arrived and sent the Argentines away, they said, "No, we're in Argentina, we're in charge," and the American military said, "No, we're in charge, leave." In Uruguay, and they took everything away. Sphere came out of a tree on a farm called Estancia de Aurora. The astronauts arrived to study, for reasons of interest, because underneath there are bases, in the whole world there are their bases. The Popocatépetl volcano, go to the internet, you see that it is monitored 24 hours a day by infrared government cameras. They do it to keep the volcano under control, but they see that there's a traffic of spaceships and motherships which are cigar-shaped. One can be clearly seen, which is 1 kilometer long, which comes in flying and descends perpendicularly, enters the active volcano because they have bases down there on other frequencies, and so the volcano doesn't harm them, but they are there and monitor continuously for the good of the planet and ours, because the planet doesn't belong to terrestrials, it belongs to everybody, and has been inhabited since the dawn of time by galactic populations, the Sumerians, as we said, and all ancient history speaks of them. The Mayan calendar, if one had a moment of calm and mental freedom, if you study the Mayan calendar, it's a galactic, synchronic calendar. It's based on what a galaxy does on its entire circuit, the precession of equinoxes. The 26,666 years speak of a complete revolution around a center, the nucleus, which is pure consciousness. For every galaxy, there is a god. In every galaxy there is an emanation center of consciousness called Hunab-Ku. This center emanates impulses that activating the frequencies of all the peripheral solar systems, and those closer to the center, activates consciousness. There is a continuous expansion. A calendar that is based on what a galaxy does, I'd say, is not terrestrial. It's enough to see this, but unfortunately, we are a little blocked in this. The experiences that one can have is that of going around looking for contacts with these cultures, and the signals will come to you, because frequencies of brothers of love are always near us, and they are constantly near us, the angels, the ascended masters, beings who live in other frequencies. We are never alone, just ask, as they said, ask. I would say that in essence this is my life.
And then I had this experience with superior friends, let's call them that. We also became disciples of Osho. He had captivated us. He was a very funny and profound maestro. Additionally, he said 95% of the things they said.
In fact, there are those who have contacted us. They are the good ones, definitely. Because they have always treated us well. But there are another kind of extraterrestrials that are negative. And they are on this earth. They always have been. But we will reach the point where everything will change. The negative ones are already leaving. The most important ones, those who ordered to do all these ugly and negative things, they have finished acting. This is what they told us, so things are changing.
Also, evil. We need to talk for a moment about what this evil is, otherwise it seems like it's the Almighty and the devil. No, the devil can exist as a symbol, he can exist as negativity. But the devil doesn't exist as master of hell, there is no hell. So the truth is not part of this world because we cannot even conceive all truths. But what we can understand, the truth that our mind can accept and understand, is single. That truth is reincarnation. Reincarnation is an absolute truth. What does this reincarnation consist of? The transition from one dimension to another. These are things they told us. Things that we can understand. Then there are things that we cannot understand because we are not yet aware of certain qualities. Certain laws. Energies, certain laws. Energies. So we surrender. We cannot conceive of God in its entirety. We can conceive of God as we know it. For what we can understand. All of us here, I believe, were born in a Catholic country, for which the first truths we are given are those through the gospel, through the sermons of the priests, who did tell us something true. The law of love, Jesus. There are many true things, some have been distorted for convenience.
Some forgotten.
Forgotten, some certainly mistranslated. I don't know if you've heard of Biglino. Biglino translated the Bible from ancient Hebrew. It's full of intended and unintended translation errors. It was convenient for them, one hopes that they are errors, otherwise. One mistake, the simplest and also the shortest as an example. In the Bible it says, God descended to earth in a fiery chariot, or God descended in a chariot of fire. God in ancient Hebrew is Eloi, but in the Bible, the true text, in the ancient Hebrew language, it doesn't say Eloi. It says Elohim, which means the plural, the gods. There's a big difference between saying God came down to earth and the gods came down to earth. There's a lot of difference, they are errors that give
Different meanings.
different meanings. Anyway, speaking of good and evil, everything comes from God, the Catholic parable. God created 12
Archangels.
archangels. But God wanted to be loved freely, and he gave free will, which previously didn't exist. You can love me or not. What happened? 11 continued to love him. The 12th, called Lucifer, meaning bringer of light, was an archangel. He felt free and said, I don't love you anymore, on the contrary, I'll fight you. According to Catholics, he rebelled against God and created evil. There is already an error here that even a 13-year-old child can understand. Explained, God is omniscient, he knows what will happen, he knows what has happened, he knows the future, the past, he knows what his gesture will bring. He gave the archangels free will to love him or not, and he didn't know that Lucifer would rebel? Of course he knew, he knows everything, he doesn't know what he's doing? He makes a gesture and doesn't know its repercussions? Admitting that he made that gesture, he didn't, but admitting that he did, he knew very well that Lucifer, or Satan, would have created evil, but God is also omnipotent, he doesn't want evil. Does he do something that will make Lucifer a good person again? No, no. He lets him create evil, so evil. And so then we say that God created his universe.
With the two opposites.
Aware that the two opposites were needed.
For life.
For life, for everyone's growth, for evolution. If there were no evil, good would be nothing. There would be no confrontation. It would be nothing, there would be no choice, there would be no evolution. Everything at a standstill, pointless. Therefore evil is necessary. I'll tell you a funny detail, skipping many things, evil on Earth. Let's talk about our planet, of which we know little. Evil exists. Evil exists. If there weren't these negatives, we wouldn't grow in love, because to grow in love we must perform acts of love, and very few, 1 in a billion terrestrials, know how to truly perform acts of love, because we ask them, what is this love? What is your definition of it? And they told us, love is that thing that begins where logic ends. Love begins where logic ends. So we asked, but why are you sending us up a hill at night for 2 or 3 hours? Because our presence of love is needed there, they said no more, because we wouldn't have understood their science, the repercussions of this energy. We went there and they told us, we tell you this because it's the most you can give, but in reality your obedience for an ideal is enough for us, so we, going up a hill or Marina Tonini, obeying and going 8 days to Jerusalem, which is no small thing. We gave the most of what we terrestrials could give, obedience for an ideal, but love, if there weren't evil here, to return to the subject of evil, we wouldn't grow one bit, because we don't have the courage to truly love, very few do it, and we also perform some gestures of generosity, but if it weren't for evil, we terrestrials wouldn't grow. We grow because there is evil. We must forgive those who offend us. Not react, endure, teach. If there were no evil, through all these paths we wouldn't grow. We do not make any courageous gesture of love which we grow, without the help of evil which obliges us to forgive, so we have to thank the negative part of the planet. If it weren't for that we wouldn't grow by this much. I reacted, we have to thank them. If these rulers of ours hadn't exaggerated, we wouldn't have reacted. We have to thank them.
That's true.
So, evil is necessary.
We were still sleeping. Instead, there are many people who are waking up now, because there's this contrast of good and evil. Evil makes itself felt, and then there is a reverse reaction.
They don't especially love anyone. They love everyone and they serve everyone. That's no small thing. They do it because for them even evil is a part of the good that is evolving, so they never condemn anyone, they welcome everyone, and when you went to him and hope to be received, you say, I'm here, I'm here. You see them look at you, smiling, as if saying, I know you're there, but patience is good for you, you are no different from anyone. It's what happened years ago, to build the largest private hospital in India, totally free, and there are also American and European surgeons. They get paid or they do it for free, for the donations that go to the ashram. The hospital was paid for like this. A man named Isaac Tigert, who owned the Hard Rock Cafe, had an apparition of a strange being who saved his life twice, in a car crash and in a cardiac arrest, after which he said, "How strange, maybe I should go to the psychiatrist." The psychiatrist said, "You are normal, I don't know what happened to you." After a while he goes to a friend's yoga center, sees a photo of this being and says, "But he saved my life." She says, "He's the famous Sai Baba." "No." "Where is he?" "He's in this place." He goes, expecting an open arm welcome. Sai Baba stops, looks at him, turns and leaves. He says, "But how?" He listens to everything the people there have to say. "He called you, but now he does it on purpose, because he wants to see how you react. He knows you're here. He called you." He slowly accepts this. He stays there, learns everything, also because he was a highly evolved being, but he didn't know it. And one day at a world convention of Sai Baba centers in Bombay, someone asks the classic question, "Why do you save some people and not others?" "I have known all of you since the beginning of creation, because we are all the same. For example, him," he points to Tigert, "twice I have saved him for him to use the talents he has in this life, for good and for human brotherhood." Tigert says, "Well, I'm here." "Good. Well, what shall we do?" Baba says, "Go, sell everything and come back to me." This he does. He comes back with a fortune, and Baba says, "Good, now we'll build the hospital." And in 9 months a world-class hospital was built in India. 9 months is like 9 days in Europe. It works perfectly, a very high level of healing, volunteering, staff turnover. I donated liters of blood. I cycled there in 40 degrees heat. They took my blood. I pedaled back. I felt no fatigue at all. There is love there, love. So the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is outside Mexico City, which is that image of the Virgin with the luminous aura with gold tips that is standing on the moon, and a hunchback being that looks like an ugly dwarf looking this way, and she's pregnant. It was an apparition from 1500, I think, on a hill outside the city, and it was printed on the cloak of a peasant boy, because the Archbishop of Mexico City was asking him for proof. Having examined the cloak, which is now untouchable at a height of 5 meters under glass, they saw that the paint has never faded, because it's not paint, it's a hologram, a few microns from the fabric. Therefore it's top-level technology, not human. They printed the image, and examining the eyes of the Virgin, you see that the Virgin looks to one side, and in the pupil there are images, there are beings drawn there. So who can do such a thing? Unless they come from high levels of technology, even of spiritual origin. She is an example and says, "I am the mother of humanity, I'm pregnant, that is, I always recreate. I create children. I'm on the moon, which represents femininity, light, the woman, and the monster would be the ugly human part or an enemy of humanity." So they're all symbols that have been put there for those who are at the level to understand them, drawn in this way. She couldn't say, "I'm from the constellation X, I've come to save humanity." They give us what we need because we are all brothers. They love us as a brother loves a brother, respecting our choices. They help us, those who want to be helped. They love everyone unconditionally. So seeing you in trouble, they come to help, like cosmic social services, they come to help those in need. Yes, that is the answer. I don't think there are others. Considering the fact that if God is love, which we can say concretely because love is the feeling that creates and continually renews everything, they are inside this flow. So when they see that something becomes disharmonious, they come to help, respecting our choice.
It's a small detail. These UFOs have been seen thousands of times, in our skies, everywhere, all over the planet. The Russians and the Americans have seen them, everyone has seen them, with a few exceptions. They're always there. They know in their own unconscious, they know very well that they exist. They pretend not to know, to laugh about it. It's a common reaction, they put it off, don't believe it, think they're bad. All because they understood very well, deep down, that we have to change. That they are here to help us. To change. Sooner or later, as soon as free will allows it, they'll make themselves clear. That's when we will have to change. People don't want to change. So they postpone, they shrug. But this is the reality. People don't want to change. Because to change takes courage. To grow a little and change dimensions. That's it, that's the game. They are here. Jesus came, we killed him. Buddha came, they tried to kill him many times. They poisoned Osho. They tore Mahavira to pieces alive. We killed them all because they were all uncomfortable. They annoyed us. We didn't want to hear them. Now we reached the point that we postpone. We wait. The laws have changed, we have changed. The point has come that if we receive help, we can make this leap and move from the current third dimension to higher dimensions. And it seems to be close. We need a certain part of humanity. 2 or 3 years and we're close. I speak of a visible beginning, not an arrival in a dimension, a visible beginning. Then we gather courage, we find strength, and we'll see how it goes. However, they are such expert people, who have helped throughout their lives, if not them, their parents, their ancestors. They have helped planets like the Earth, and even worse, to grow. They have such experience that they know now is the right time to help us. They are not people who fail, who spend their own continuous energies on their technology. They dedicate themselves to us for nothing in return. They know what they are doing. It's just a matter of time. This fight, let's call it a fight, which is no longer physical, with weapons, and which is a psychological fight. It is a fight
of energies.
Divine energies, of divine energies between good and evil in our galaxy. Let's stick to our galaxy. It has already been won by good, only that the repercussions of this victory on certain planets such as the Earth, will occur in due time. When we can understand them, we will be able to accept and enjoy them because our psyche, our culture, is not yet ready to accept certain truths we wouldn't understand, because certain truths are accompanied by technological effects that in our hands, some of their technologies would be dangerous.
Sumerians had contact with those that are said to have come from Aldebaran. In southern Mexico, they had contact with those that came from, I don't know, from the Pleiades or wherever. They educated humanity and left. I think that's part of the game too, that creation also relies on someone planting seeds, creating something, watching it develop. Then it seems that those mediums who had contacts like Maria Orsic, who gave the technology to Hitler, said she connected with the Aldebaran is mixed up a bit. One should really have contact with them or at a high level. Here the great cosmic masters could explain it to us. We see the effects here, but we don't see the source. They leave and say, we'll be back. They see some of the structure, the incarnation that makes the person, what is incarnated. If there is an evolved, non-conditioned being, I believe they choose, and generally there is also a lineage. Perhaps you come from a family of people who practice this type of knowledge, so there is also a DNA lineage, but they know who to contact, and often if the contacted person can take other paths, they don't bother him anymore or they don't use him. It depends on behavior, but they choose. I believe this. Indeed, I'm aware they exist. I've witnessed them on numerous occasions. However, I'm not in direct communication with them. I lack telepathic connection. While I've experienced it in the past, that's not the role they assume with me. I live my life, undergo my experiences, come from the Andromeda Galaxy, and don't receive messages from Galicia, who has hundreds of interviews on YouTube, so it's public. They said there are currently 150 races on planet Earth that are interacting with us, and they have various forms. Tall, blonde, so-called Nordics. You could be one of them. Others are shorter, others are gray. There are more reptilian ones, or those that look like crocodiles, the Dargos. There is a great variety, the insectoid race that look like grasshoppers and have very powerful psychic powers. Various types developed according to the environment in which they live. They developed a form. Consciousness takes the form of the context it is in. A Russian truck driver saw a spaceship one night, somewhere in Russia. He approached it. A Cyrillic inscription appeared outside the ship, with the words, "Approach, don't be afraid, we're friends." He approached and a bar of light came out of the spaceship with the words, "Hold on to this, you can enter." He did it. Incredibly, he entered and the beings that were inside, completely positive and good, were amorphous. He said he saw dark, somewhat hairy masses of energy that looked like hairy balls, that were alien beings. They said, "This is our form, it's unusual for you, but don't worry, we are good." The quantity of forms they can have is indefinable. Those that have come closest to us are those that have heads, legs, and arms, but perhaps small or tall. Reptilians and draconians have scaly skin. The insectoids, there are the Nordics. Those from Andromeda may be shorter, but there are infinite races. Because each galaxy has 100 billion solar systems, so do the math, it's incalculable. But there is an immense amount of races. Who can define it? We are one of many, and we are those that are evolving.
There is a constant growth of people who come into contact. In Turin there are contactees who are in contact with an extraterrestrial race which is at the entrance to the base under Monte Musine, a mountain near Turin, with is an enormous iron cross, a tombstone for the Madonna. Below is the entrance to a base. They are in contact with these beings who have said some very interesting things. This group came here, a very small part of this group, to get to know us and to bring this thing to us. Incidentally, there were 20 of us in the friendship group. It was the largest group there has ever been. There were other small friendship groups, 4 or 5 people maximum, in Siberia, in Argentina. The group in Turin, in contact with those at the base under the Musine mountain, where there are, as they told me, 247 people. They gave us, because we deserve it and the time has come for us to be helped, they gave us techniques to cancel, where possible, negative energies on the planet. Very easy to use. Many of them used the pendulum, used it in a different way. And with this movement, negative energies leave. It's like using a lightning rod, they go away. They brought this to me, under their direction, because meditating, I put my hands here, and my meditation increases in potential. There are signs of their handwriting, signs of their Kabbalistic, energetic technology. They have a technology that is not only in their machines, in their objects, it is also in their writing, even in their gestures, in everything. This significantly enhances a meditation technique I practice, which originates from Grabovoi. It aims to heighten both individual awareness and consciousness, simultaneously expanding the awareness of the planet. I don't know if you know who Grigory Grabovoi is. He's Russian, he created numbers, a numerical homeopathy. It comes in ancient times, from the Sufis. Just think, the Sufis created a numerical homeopathy. We are talking about the time of the Quran, of Muhammad, even before homeopathy existed, the one we have, that works, that can also be bought in pharmacies, that has been proven. This numerical homeopathy was created by Grabovoi, knowing that the Sufis had had this inspiration. These here are inspirations that come from above, it can't be anything else. Returning to Grabovoi, he did some numerical meditations, that I do, and which serve to increase my consciousness, my awareness, and of all the inhabitants, like me, good and bad, who are on the planet. It may be little, it strengthens it. If you do your meditations, with this thing here, you empower them. When I have to visualize the numbers, I am neither receptive nor anything. Some ladies come here who were receptive, and put their hands here. Ah, what a vibration, what a vibration. I didn't feel anything. But when I do my meditation alone, the numbers come to me, I visualize them, with some effort, but if I put my hands they come immediately.
The program includes a fabricated alien invasion scenario, utilizing holographic projections in the sky, a concept similar to the Blue Beam Project. This involves beaming light to create alarming, lifelike images. The narrative suggests that this orchestrated event could ostensibly save humanity from a malevolent alien invasion, prompting us to express gratitude to those who seemingly protect us while keeping us under control. Once executed, this stratagem would limit their alternatives, given the ongoing awakening occurring despite their efforts. If claims are made about both the existence of aliens and their malicious intent, it becomes evident that a substantial deception has been perpetuated. This realization would spark widespread research and investigation, ultimately leading to an inevitable awakening. This fake alien invasion cyclical nature of existence and the Earth's progression, but even this won't help to stop the discussion, because it's foreseen. If a nuclear war happens, which I doubt, because they won't allow it, they will stop something, so I'm absolutely calm about this. Times will also be tougher because they will always try to make humanity live in a worse way, because thanks to forcing emergencies they will be able to stop flights. I don't think it will last long, but the program exists. A false alien invasion, the Blue Beam Project. They can make any types of shapes they want in the sky, even among us, so they can already make clones, robots that look human but aren't, so they have this power, but it won't help. I am totally unworried, but it's there as an idea, to show how stubborn they are. But don't worry, but they know that they can't win, because you can't stop the universe. This is also the evolution of planet Earth, also because all the Brotherhood is on alert and they are close to us. Since they do nothing evil, they neutralize and don't kill, they just observe. In the end, I think they would do something even more concrete, if many maestros also say this. There have been aliens who carried out control operations and abductions, kidnappings, bad things for humanity, but this was granted to them by the American government. This has been recorded and was also blocked. They don't do it anymore because the superior being intervened and said enough of these things. But they aren't bad guys, though in the past they controlled mankind as they wished. But at this point there are no more bad guys. The bad guys are those who govern us, in my opinion, and who are totally human, more precisely the hidden powers, economic powers, science, because true science can't say that what it doesn't know about doesn't exist. Also because if nothing is created, nothing is destroyed, everything evolves. How can you say that the scientific phenomenon that proves its veracity must be repetitive, if nothing repetitive is the same? Because everything changes since the moment you did it. They say one thing and deny what they say, so science can't say what it doesn't know, doesn't exist, otherwise Galileo Galilei. The day that large numbers of people and stop believing in it, the game will be done, so I'd be optimistic, indeed. And now there aren't any bad aliens around. Humbly, it's not that. For me they have gone away, they have been sent away. Now the villains are humans, because they can neutralize everything quickly if they want. There is also a video where there is a UFO circling an American base. With its warheads already loaded and aimed, the UFO approaches, and with a beam destroys them, and I think it was Salah, the officer, who said, "That fucking UFO cost us $20 million yesterday. It destroyed 4 nuclear targeting systems with one beam. It got close but there's video." So if they wanted they could stop everything, but they respect what we're doing. It seems incredible, like Gaspare de Lama, who I saw yesterday. He was in the friendship group. These space brothers said, "Look, we don't kill. Our spaceships, which are made of evolutionary conscious matter, don't kill. If I give the order, it won't execute it. It neutralizes, so we never want to go to war. We'll wait until the last minute to see. At most we'll block everything, but we don't kill anyone." From what I've seen, many authoritative authors also say so. They respect what we do, It's like a spiritual maestro. Until you wake up, he lets you sleep. He says, don't do it, don't do it. And you say, but I can't. The day comes when you say, I won't do it anymore because I've seen that it's no use. They give you all the rope you need to hang yourself. The day you realize that you're doing this, you fix it. That's all. ACES, as they say in Mexico.
It is the technological part that is nothing. The spiritual part is all that matters.
It's important.
The journey of growth knows no end. Presently situated in the third dimension, they will guide us and support us in our transition. While the impetus to move rests with us, their assistance will expedite our passage into the fourth and fifth dimensions. In each realm, our form becomes more ethereal. Currently in the third dimension, our corporeal state is comparably lighter than minerals. Granite, for instance, is notably denser. A given volume of granite outweighs an equivalent volume of our flesh. Granite, possessing its own consciousness and path, serves as the point of origin for awareness. Life courses through everything, animation pervades all without exception. Whatever you see in the world, it's all animated. Minerals have their own awareness, lower than ours.
They have a soul.
There is a soul, it has made a journey. We have too, and we don't remember anymore, because up to our dimension, for reasons that are a bit long to explain, we don't remember our past journey. But we made this journey too. In a nutshell, and to simplify greatly, granite follows a path. Let me reiterate, this is a highly simplified explanation. Granite embarks on a bold journey, transforming into a diamond. It remains within the mineral realm, yet emerges as something purer, more exquisite, and more purposeful. Moving on to vegetation, while less dense than granite or iron, it surpasses us in density. From the enigmatic jungle tree, unknown to humans, to the tree flourishing in your garden, which registers your care through watering and pruning, even the old lady's geranium, which she converses with, life courses through them. These living entities begin to sense the existence of higher realms and vibrations. Such perceptions lead them back to their botanical essence. And it grows better. There are old Chinese gardening theories, which say you should caress and talk to plants. When they are cared for, pruned, watered, they grow better. Among the first results of our growth, we will become, what is paranormal, should be normal, it's just that we don't believe it and we're lazy. We should all be telepathic, all healers. We will become telepathic, with the trees, with our animals.
Listen, I wanted to say there's a verse, a proverb that says, God sleeps in the mineral, dreams in the vegetation, he wakes up in the animal and becomes conscious in man. This is precisely the summary of this whole thing, this evolution that started from the mineral.
We started from the mineral. Now we are in the third dimension. Our body is increasingly more diaphanous. If you pinch a bull or an ox, your fingers feel some resistance. If you pinch yourself, your fingers sink because the atoms of your body are more distant. Because you have deserved a less heavy body that pulls you less towards materiality.
Towards instinct.
To the material instinct, let's take the most banal example. The more matter is dense, the more it pulls you down, the more diaphanous it is, the more we dominated. The V-56s, which were from 2.5 to 3 meters tall, neither thin nor fat, they weighed from 22 to 24 kilograms, because the matter was much more diaphanous, they weren't transparent. Less dense, there were fewer atoms. Going forward, one becomes, so to speak, transparent on a material level, no longer matter. We become energy, organized, transparent, and even invisible. We become more and more divine. At a certain point, you grow, you grow, you grow, and what do you become? You become God. But not this type of deity. You are always you, but you become a God. And you will create your universe.
It has to be said that we are already creators.
We are already considered God.
Because we create paintings, we create beautiful sculptures.
Magnificent music, poems.
And going forward in evolution, we will be more and more creators of more subtle things, more spiritual.
With more love.
What does "we are all one" mean? The simplistic discourse of the energy that created all the universe has a single source, so we are an emanation of it, therefore we are all one, and it's true, but we are all one in the deepest sense of who we are, and being able to understand this, embracing our deepest part of light and love, which is what originates all that exists, as it is manifested, because without going into complex things, when they tell you the universe is a manifestation of creative thought that has no form, it is an intent to duplicate itself or to emit something that becomes a vibration, that you begin to understand something as much as you can, because it's impossible, but the fact of having had a single origin from a single, let's say feeling, or harmonious state, which is love, should make us understand that we are all the same form, that has evolved in different ways according to the frequencies it has taken, because when an ego, a body, becomes an identification, it becomes self-referential. Manages itself according to need, from where it was born, in which family tree it entered, so there is a management there that becomes personal on its own, but our innermost part is the same, thus managing to pay less attention to the superficial and peripheral layers of what we are, accepting the defects of others, not suffering them, but trying to understand, forgiving, because obviously each of us has our own problems, and I don't know the problems another has, if I'm immediately antagonistic, I create tension and the other rightly reacts. Then we separate more and more from each other, to think that others are all like you, and have problems that I don't have, maybe they are worse than mine, and I start to become more open, more compassionate. That is, I can understand. I don't react, and if I don't react, I don't emit a frequency of hostility, and the other doesn't react to that. Therefore we do everything, which is linked, but to very little freedom of choice exists, and it changes when I become aware that all that exists is a divine part that is in me, which has no type of identification, so even free choice ends, because it has nothing to choose. The need to choose ends. The well-known act of entrusting oneself to God, la entrega a Dios, became clear to me. I realized that within me lies a facet I've never truly comprehended. Allowing it to manifest, when it unfurls and communicates, my thoughts and self-identifications dissolve. I permit it to exist without being tethered to identity. Thus,
God is a
I
being
observe
who,
events from a
through his
detached
entire
standpoint.
journey,
I'm not
from mineral
ensnared
to
by them,
himself,
but rather
has
I
understood that
experience
the
them.
most beautiful, most exciting, most wonderful, most divine thing is evolution. It is the absolute, cosmic orgasm, to evolve. So if evolution is the absolute maximum orgasm, God has chosen to evolve in eternity, and if he evolves eternally, he will never be perfect, because if he evolves, he will always know more, there will never be a final truth, and there will never be perfection. Because God evolves more and more in transformation, he will be more and more perfect, but will never stop new universes, of each God who comes and creates his universe. For eternity there will always be new universes, we asked, but when did all this start? It's always been like this. Always.
And it will never end.
What purpose does it have? Because Osho said the same thing about the multiverse, as he called it. And we asked Osho, not them, because we weren't in friendship yet. In Osho there were about 3 million disciples. There were those a little more intelligent than the others, and they asked questions that I wouldn't have thought of. One of the questions was, but what is the purpose of all this? Osho's response, it has no purpose. If it had a purpose, everything would be horrendous. The beauty of love is that it has no purpose. If a gesture of love had a purpose, it would be horrendous. I perform this gesture, because then you reward me, so others can see how generous I am, because this is how I grow in love. Well, if I made gestures of love for these purposes, it would no longer be love. Love is an outburst. It's an outburst of joy without cause, so all this has no purpose. It's a game, it's an outburst of love that has no purpose. If it had a purpose it would be. Purpose is mental, because that's the story. The mind is the seat of the ego. Enough with the mind. We need to be a little less mental and a little more childlike, less mind and a little more trust in the fairy tale. Less rationality. A child believes in the story of Little Red Riding Hood. He believes it. Jesus said, "Have faith like these children, otherwise, if you are not like these children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven." So when will we have that faith? When?
They always tell us, you must be optimistic, always think of the good, because good energies come out from these intentions, from these ideas.
We don't know the energies that goodness and optimism move, and they are the ones that make us grow until they can make us do something beyond a certain limit of free will. But then we are afraid. It is fear, so much so that if you look at those who govern us, the paradigm is no longer love and hate, it's love and fear. They keep us in fear, the impending wars, the atomic bomb as the sword of Damocles. They make us live like this. We all fall for it. But we mustn't fall for it. It takes a little courage, but it seems.
And optimism.
That it's slowly beginning, let's hope so.
It's coming slowly.
There's this story. There's the Aztec calendar in Mexico, the soul stone that's that face with its tongue out, which is the 5 cycles of the sun. It is written that there are these unfoldings of development and also of destruction in the cosmos, so when a cycle ends, the galaxy evolves in vibration, and all that is old has to be left. Either it breaks because it no longer holds the frequency, or there is some disaster, like earthquakes, which are evolutionary. They are not God's punishments, and that's how it works. If one goes to the mountains and sees shells, it means that once there was the sea, so not a punitive God. This is what is happening for cosmic evolution. The brothers, knowing this, come to give us a hand, because they want to help us in the transition. Don't be afraid, there is no terror, there is nothing. What is to come is happening, so they help us. Official science does not tell us that many planets are internally inhabited because the surface is occasionally shaken, therefore many planets are inhabited, like the Earth. By now it is known that the intraworld, Agartha, the Earth within, is inhabited. There are so many books, contacts of Admiral Byrd who went inside, and Antarctica. Even Hitler found it, because all of occult history, many have entered the intraworld. They have seen the brothers who followed the Lemurians, who have a much more advanced civilization, because they are the ancient terrestrial race. This is happening on the surface, because it is aligning itself to a new frequency. The entire solar system is in evolution. When the sun starts having sunspots and flares, it is activating the planets, so it is a frequency of evolution. Knowing this, the brothers help us, so that we don't despair. We don't then do wrong things, because those who know that we are coming out of the cage want to keep us there, and they play their last cards, that we see abundantly. Not only that, but Indian Sacred science tells us that in the cosmos there are points or star systems that emanate an evolutionary frequency of awareness, and as everything is a cycle, when we lose contact, in our solar system the star Sirius B is the star that emanates awareness, which most of the descending maestros come from. When we move away and no longer catch the rays of Sirius's awareness, the earth falls into darkness. In the famous Kali Yuga, the detachment from the divine, unbridled materialism, violence. But this too, in its cycle, the influence of Sirius B returns, and the Golden Age, Satya Yuga, the truth will return. This too is a cycle, so when they tell you, look, all this is a cosmic game, there is no laughing at it, it's the truth, to be interpreted. Everything that happens in the cosmos moves by itself, so evolution is also part of perturbations, problems, but perturbations are pushed forward, so even certain races that have used the planet, feeding on its energy, especially fear-like, now are doing it for their advantage, but it becomes our advantage too, because in the end humanity will wake up. It could be said that good and evil are the same thing, seen from two different viewpoints.
I won't tell you how come this sighting happened. However, it was all organized. I was not a coincidence.
Questa è Shirley MacLaine. Combinazione era su questa
She is
rivista.
Serena Gray.
Shirley MacLaine.
The combination was in this magazine.
Luca tanto
Serena Gray in the
50
last
anni
few
aveva.
years, well actually not so recent, she was 50.
Ha avuto dei contatti
She is a
con- era
contactee,
dichiarato.
she had contact with them. She had declared it. Here it starts. I am in this article. This is me back then. These are the photos they have chosen. I won't tell you how come or why did this happen, and I won't even tell the purpose of it. I will not tell. Those are other things I have found. All of them were staged. Here we are. This is Monte Silvano.
You can see it very well.
This is in Pescara. This is the same one that enlisted beyond the cabins and went on the roofs of the houses. You really can see it very well. Here we are in Treno, a small town near Milan, in the province of Novara. 5 to 6 kilometers from Milano. The thing you were telling us before. Yes.
Did you take these photos?
He took all the photos. Yes, can I turn page? Yes. And this is the last one. This one is undeniable. I mean, you can see it clearly.